Right, guys, I hear there's another candidate in the running for Oxford Chancellor, Peter Mandelson. Let's see if we can put his ghost to rest as well. Peter Mandelson. He was twice forced to resign from the cabinet before leaving Parliament to take up an appointment as a European Commissioner. A significant influence on the office of Labour Party leader Keir Starmer, and as a core part of his network. During his teenage years, he joined the Young Communist League due to UK's support of the US role in the Vietnam War. He attended St Catherine's College, Oxford. Bear in mind the UK population's opinion of Europe, despite its place in the post-war order and global security and world trade, and those who might hold responsible. In 2004, Mandelson became Britain's European Commissioner, taking the trade portfolio. As a former EU Commissioner, Mandelson was entitled to a £31,000 pension upon reaching the age of 65 years. It was claimed by Christopher Hope of the Daily Telegraph in 2009 that Mandelson's pension was contingent on a duty of loyalty to the communities, which also applied after his term in office. The Taxpayers Alliance, which was reported to have uncovered the threat to his pension, demanded that he should declare the conflict of interest and either relinquish his EU paychecks or resign as a minister. When one considers that his new ministerial post deals specifically with business, enterprise and regulatory reform, all areas that are intimately involved with EU legislation, regulation and policy, the group said, the conflict of interest is even more stark. Mandelson did not agree that he had a conflict of interests. Mandelson had also not declared the Robinson loan to his building society, the Britannia, and although they decided not to take any action, he had to resign when it became clear that the Prime Minister thought nothing else would clear the air. In October 2000, it was reported that Robinson had accused Peter Mandelson of lying to the Commons about the home loan affair that cost both of them their government jobs. In August 2009, Mandelson was widely reported to have ordered technical measures, such as internet disconnection, to be included in the draft of the Digital Economy Act 2010, even though the Digital Britain report had rejected this type of punishment. The Independent reported that according to their Whitehall sources, Mandelson was persuaded that tough laws were needed to reduce online copyright infringement, following an intensive lobbying campaign by influential people in the music and film industry. Is that really conducive to the multipolar media world with individuals and influencers, including foreign actors and platforms like TikTok? Meeting with DreamWorks. The Times reported after the Corfu meeting that an unnamed Whitehall source had confirmed that before this trip, Mandelson had shown little personal interest in the Digital Britain agenda, which had been ongoing for several years. According to the source of the Times, Mandelson returned from holiday and effectively issued an edict that the regulation needed to be tougher. His memoirs were subsequently criticised by Labour leadership contenders Ed and David Miliband and Andy Burnham, who neither had success as Labour leader or success in running for the leadership, respectively, and perhaps as a direct result. He continues to be divisive, rather than leadership level influential in that period. A problem maker, not a solution finder. During this time, he was appointed president of the international think tank Policy Network, founded Global Council. Mandel has been criticised for so far not disclosing his clients. Has he been hiding behind his reputation and perhaps Gordon's credibility and abilities in banking and internationally? Then along came Cameron, Osborne, Boris, Haig, Ayal. And look at the state of the world now, despite his attempts at influence. In May 2011, it was revealed that there was speculation that Mandelson had been approached by China to be a candidate for the leadership of the International Monetary Fund, even though Mandelson had not been a finance minister or headed a central bank. It was then speculated that Mandelson would stand to succeed Pascal Lamy as Director General of the World Trade Organization, backed by none other than David Cameron. After the 2015 Labour leadership election resulted in Jeremy Corbyn becoming the party leader, Mandelson stated that he believed that Labour was now unelectable, but advised party members unhappy with the situation to wait for Corbyn to demonstrate this before working to replace him. He wished for an early general election to force Corbyn out. In February 2017, he said Corbyn had no idea in the 21st century how to conduct himself as a leader of a party putting itself forward in a democratic election. And I work every single day to bring forward the end of Corbyn's tenure in office. After the results of the 2017 UK general election became known, Mandelson conceded that Corbyn's election campaign was, quote, very sure-footed, and the result, in which Labour gained seats and denied the Conservatives a majority, unexpected. I was wrong about Corbyn, he told BBC News. I am very surprised. An earthquake has happened in British politics and I did not foresee it. Although he doubted Corbyn's ability to gain a Commons majority. 2 years later, in the 2019 general election, Labour suffered their worst defeat since the 1930s. Mandelson described this result as not undeserved, arguing that Corbyn's leadership was one of the main reasons for Labour's defeat. Wishy-washy flip-flopping to maintain his own sense of importance and his carefully crafted public image locus of that sense of importance. During the 2016 EU referendum, Mandelson sat on the board on England. During the 2016 EU referendum, Mandelson sat on the board of Britain Stronger in Europe, the official Remain campaign. The campaign was unsuccessful. Following the referendum, Mandelson was an outspoken supporter of a second referendum, Britain Stronger in Europe. Within a few years, we are set to be overtaken by Poland. What people failed to explain was how, at the turn of the century, we were at the absolute zenith of our power, influence and standing in Europe. I know this because I worked with successive foreign secretaries, EU commissioners, EU justice experts, EU partners at the executive and support level. In 2021, it was reported that Mandelson had been advising Labour leader Keir Starmer on moving the party beyond Corbyn's leadership and broadening its electoral appeal. And yet Mandelson's style is all over the election. Party discipline and censorship of the form that resulted in my nickname for the Prime Minister, Keir Jong-un. He'd shoot his cousin in the back if he thought that would entrench his position further, stifling off debate that has already led to the loss of 8 MPs in rebellion and the lowest representation among the total of eligible voters in the election in the history of Labour Prime Ministers. Lord Mandelson billed the taxpayer for almost £3,000 of work on his Lord Mandelson billed the taxpayer for almost £3,000 of work on his constituency home in Hartlepool less than a week after announcing his decision to stand down as MP. During the summer of 2008, Mandelson had a widely publicised disagreement with Nicolas Sarkozy, President of France. Sarkozy accused him of trying to sell out European farmers and appeared to blame his handling of the Doha round of trade talks for the no vote in the Irish referendum on the Treaty of Lisbon. Mandelson said his position at World Trade Talks had been undermined and told the BBC he did not start the row, saying, "I stood up for myself," which sounds like a recurring theme. October 2008, Mandelson was reported to have maintained private contacts over several years with Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, most recently on holiday in 2008 on Deripaska's yacht at Taverna Agni on the Greek island of Corfu. In April 2014, it was reported that Mandelson had strong ties to the Russian conglomerate Sistema. Now look at Russian actions and influence levels around the world since that time. In June 2013, writing for the Progress website, Mandelson warned Labour it risked harming its election chances if affiliated trade unions continued to manipulate parliamentary selections, as was alleged in the 2013 party Falkirk candidate selection controversy. Now, workers' rights have regressed so much by international standards that it's become a defining and central issue of the new manifesto. In 2019, UK's Channel 4 aired an episode of Dispatches in which a source close to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein claimed that Peter Mandelson, while serving as a UK cabinet minister, made a phone call to Epstein in order to set up a meeting with Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan. In June 2023, an internal JP Morgan report from 2019 filed to a New York court found that Jeffrey Epstein appears to maintain a particularly close relationship with Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and Lord Mandelson, a senior member of the British government. Well, that's just brilliant, isn't it? Resignation from lobbying firm. Recently, Peter Mandelson resigned from the board of his lobbying firm, Global Counsel, just weeks before Labour was predicted to win by a landslide and return to government. Some speculate that this move might free him up for a possible government role. I wonder whether he was offered one, and whether the answer to that question led to his motivation for running for the position of Chancellor of Oxford. Trade union caution. As a key architect of New Labour, Mandelson warned Keir Starmer not to tilt too far towards trade unions if he wins power. He cautioned against giving unions excessive influence. This is despite the environment of 14 years of class struggle, a history of an environment of eternal class struggle, culminating in lower life chances for the poorest in society, real public sector and NHS salaries falling at a much faster rate than the private sector, and workers' rights making many proud workers and good people feel as though they are living in conditions of modern slavery, exploitation and servitude. Controversial resignations. Mandelson faced controversy during his tenure as European Commissioner. He resigned twice, once over a home loan scandal and later due to allegations of favouritism in a trade dispute involving aluminium exports. Perceived elitism. Critics often portrayed Mandelson as part of the metropolitan elite. His close ties to wealthy individuals and business leaders led to accusations of elitism and detachment from ordinary citizens. Influence on Blair's policies. Some argue that Mandelson's influence on Tony Blair's policies was excessive. His role in shaping New Labour's agenda and his close relationship with Blair raised concerns about undue power and lack of transparency. Handling of the Millennium Dome project. As Secretary of State for Trade and Industry, Mandelson faced criticism for his handling of the Millennium Dome project. The costly venture was plagued by financial mismanagement and lack of clear purpose. Lobbying and transparency. Mandelson's post-political career involved lobbying and advisory roles. Critics questioned the transparency of his activities and potential conflicts of interest. All the while, the state of the world, especially global security, became all the more precarious. I'd just like to finish with a reflection on two of Mandelson's performances in two of the most important portfolios he has taken on. Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, and the Secretary of State for Business, Enterprise and Regulatory Reform. After 4 years of his contributions, I would argue that these are two of the poorest performing areas in recent decades of UK woes. Business literacy in general is, even now, a massive drag on economic growth, innovation and progress. Skill shortages are, even now, the great inhibitor to job match, investment and productivity. As I've argued before, regulatory reform is totally not fit for purpose. Whether that be monopoly and monopolist power, human resource and talent practice that borders on abuse and modern slavery, cowboy operators, or the activity of some of the most inappropriate people imaginable in every area of society, from the police through to politicians to every level of our nation, a country becoming prouder of its formidable history than its precarious present. But there has been success for his mates. Richard Branson is shooting into space, and Tony Blair's son is worth millions, occupying precisely the skill space that Mandelson was supposed to be leading on, funnily enough. You have a unique opportunity to vote for a clean skin without a record of incompetence, sleaze or toadyism. Vote for the best. Vote for me. Thank you.